Have you ever experienced something so crippling in your life that has made you feel broken? I have. Are you someone who has a giving heart but is struggling to feel good themselves? Are you consistently putting your needs aside to take care of everyone else? If so, you're not alone. Giving starts with giving to yourself so that you are able to give of yourself to other people. Isn't it time you took back control and discovered what makes you tick? Join me in my journey and find out how you can feel better about yourself, live your best life, and share that with others. Thinking of yourself, it doesn't make you selfish, it makes you brave. I'm Nelia, and this is the Giving Starts With You podcast. Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Giving Starts With You podcast. I'm Nelia Hutt, and I'm so happy to have you join us again this week. I hope that you've been receiving a lot of value from the show. That is what it's about. And if you do want to join my community, please send me an email at info@travellivegive.com. Today, I have a very special guest. His name is Nelson Tressler. Welcome to the show, Nelson. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me.
Oh, it's great to meet you. I love meeting new friends. Where are you tuning in from today?
Las Vegas, Nevada.
Las Vegas. I've been to Las Vegas a few times. That's
Yeah.
awesome. That's
Come
great.
back. We need all the help we can get.
Yes, I'm out near Toronto.
Oh, okay.
I'm just north, I'm in the suburbs. Just to let you know a little bit more about Nelson, Nelson is the author of the Unlucky Sperm Club. What a great title that is. I love it. And also the creator of the I Got Smarter app.
Yep.
So he is going to talk to us about all things about overcoming challenges. Yeah, he's setting goals, personal development. He has had a challenging start to his life. So I think this episode is really going to make us think and appreciate and learn how to set some goals for ourselves. So thank you so much, Nelson.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I guess we should start right at the beginning. I mean, this was right off the top of your life starting, right?
Yeah. I mean, my origin story is quite unique. So my mother got pregnant with me when she was 15 years old. She was one of 15 children living in a small town in central Pennsylvania. Her father was the local trash collector. And while she was pregnant with me, her father drove into the small town square, saw two police officers there, stuck a gun out the window and opened fire, killing one of the police officers and critically wounding the other. And he was captured and brought to stand trial. He was facing the death penalty for murdering a police officer. And during the trial, my mother got on the stand and testified to the jury that the reason that her father had shot and killed the police officer was that police officer had pulled her over and then raped her, and that she was now carrying his baby, who was me. And that's why her father did what he did. And it worked. My grandfather, the first trial ended in a hung jury. The second trial, they took the death penalty off the table, and he was found guilty and served life in prison without the possibility of parole. And that's kind of where my life started.
Wow. I'm a little speechless. So let me get this straight. So this police, your mother was pulled over at 15 or 14 by this police officer?
Well, and this is all in my book. This is
Okay.
this is the story that my mom told the jury,
Okay. Okay.
and there's a lot more to the story. I don't
Okay.
want to give it away, but
No, that's
it's
okay.
yeah, it's definitely there's a lot more to it.
Yes. But what you had just said to us right now, so your father had shot the police officer who
My grandfather, my
your
grandfather.
yes, your grandfather.
Yeah.
Okay. So
Well, and I mean, yeah, I mean, as bad as that is, I mean, my life didn't get any easier. My mom's 15 years old when she has me. Her father goes away to prison, and here, letting behind, his entire family, and then, me and my mom, to deal with these consequences. And if any of you guys have ever lived in a small town, you know that they know everything about you regardless. But now, with what had happened and what my mom had testified, everybody kind of knew who we were and what we represented. And so had to deal with a lot of that. And then my mom, when she turned 21, she started going to bars, and she found a peach of a man that eventually would become my stepfather, and come to find out that he was an alcoholic, and that he emotionally and physically abused me and my mom, almost on a daily basis. And
I'm so sorry to
that,
hear that.
yeah, and that took a huge toll on my emotional, as a child. And eventually my mom, had four more children with my stepfather. And because of the lifestyle that they were living, a lot of those duties of caring for those kids, fell upon me as the oldest, to kind of help out and take care of babies. And, flash forward, when I was about 11, my mom has four children. My stepfather is walking home drunk from a bar one night, and there's somebody else who is driving home drunk from that bar, and ends up hitting and killing him. And whenever he had died, my mom, here she is. She has five children. She had dropped out of school in the eighth grade. She has no education, no marketable skills, and worst of all, she has no hope at this time. As rough as her life had been up to that point, now she felt hopeless without anybody. And it was at this time that she decided that she was going to take her own life. And she attempted suicide. And fortunately, she was not successful. And but whenever she did get out of the hospital, she decided that she couldn't care for all five kids on her own. And it was at that time that I went to go live with my grandmother, the wife of the man who shot and killed the police officer. And like I said, she had 15 kids. So there were still some of those kids at home. And one way or another, she had some other cousins living there in this small little 2-bedroom house. But for the first time in my life, I had, a stable, quote unquote, stable childhood, where I didn't have to worry about my stepfather coming home and beating me or my mom, or having to worry about waking up and taking care of crying kids. And I started to, by this time, I had already failed the fourth grade. Come to find out, I had dyslexia. Was placed into special ed. But when I moved in with my grandma, I had that stable household. And even though education was never like a huge priority in our family, my grandma expected you to go to school. And when I did start to go to school, I realized I wasn't stupid. Which up to this point, I'm in special ed. I can't read, I can't write, I can't spell. With dyslexia, I'm just thinking that I'm stupid. But I realized if I really put my mind to it, that I could learn. And then I started to, kind of go down that route. And one of the things that really changed my life was in my grandmother's family of 15 children, only two of them had ever graduated from high school. And I had 50 or 60 cousins at this time. And, none of them had ever gone to college either. And I set a goal, I needed to figure out a way to change the direction of my life. When I was in 17, I was very aware that my life kind of sucked. And the one thing that kind of came to me was that if I could get a college education, if I could become that first person in my family to graduate from college, that I could change the direction of my life and really change the way that my eventual family was going to be. And, long story short, 4 schools later, having to join the Air Force to keep money to go to school, I became that first person in my family to graduate from college. And that kind of,
Fabulous.
yeah, thank you. So that kind of started my whole thing with this personal development. That was 20 years ago. And I've used goals and personal development throughout those last 20 years to really build a life that I couldn't have even imagined, growing up.
First of all, let me say it sounds like you had a couple of really powerful women in your life.
Oh, I did. My mom and my grandma. In fact, my book, The Unlucky Sperm Club, it's actually dedicated to the three women who made the biggest difference in my life. You know, my gram, my mom, and my wife. So,
Oh, that's beautiful. Your mom
yeah.
sounds like a tough cookie.
You know, as hard as her life was, she met another man shortly after my stepfather had died, and now she's a totally different person, and she's living a totally different life. They've been married for 35 years, and you know, my this guy is everything that a father and a husband should be. He's an incredible guy.
You're gonna
So
make me
yeah, she's
cry now.
blessed.
Oh, I'm so happy for her. That's wonderful.
Yeah,
That's wonderful. Yeah, when you were saying that, I'm like, oh, thank goodness you had somebody in your corner, somebody
yeah.
fighting for you. That's amazing. I love that your grandmother kind of, encouraged you.
Yeah, she was incredible. I mean, just totally incredible. Can't say enough about her.
So I'm going to ask you a couple questions. If you don't want to tell me because you don't want to spoil the book, just let me know, okay? I won't
Okay.
ask you too much, but just a couple of things I want to know. So,
Yeah.
at what age were you told that this is what happened?
It was, and this is in my book. I was around 12 years old
Okay.
whenever, I was kind of told. Well, as far as what my grandfather had done, I mean, that was blatantly clear, from the time I can remember. I mean, from my family, but also from the community.
Yeah, because I was going to say, when you said that you came from a small community, and I can just see you, walking around, going to the grocery store or what have you, doing stuff with your mom as a little boy, and people perhaps turning and staring at you, and I'm like, how would that must have felt for a little boy, not knowing why are people looking at me, It does something to you and you feel guilty for nothing, and you haven't done anything.
Yeah.
So that must have been very difficult for you.
Yeah, it was. I mean, I'll share one of the stories I shared in my book with you. I mean, um, when I was eighth grade, you go to that first dance where you actually go pick up your date. And I had asked a girl on a date and ended up picking her up with my cousin John, who had just gotten his driver's license. And the parents, come to find out, the parents weren't going to let her go with me. And when they found out that my cousin was driving and not a parent, they weren't going to let her go at all. And anyhow, they came up with a story to say, hey, she has a family event, so we're going to have to pick her up a half an hour early. Well, we left, and the father followed us to the dance to make sure that we weren't going to pull off the road and rape her. And then they came and picked, yeah, and then they came and picked her up half an hour, like they said. But I eventually ended up dating this girl for a few years in high school. So they told me this story, once they got to know me. But I mean, those were the types of things that I was dealing with. There's a few more really good stories in the book that, people will just shake their head and say, holy cow, I can't believe that. But yeah,
Yeah, we'll have to
that
read it for
was
sure. Yeah, because it's terrible for you, but as a parent, if I had a daughter, I'd be scared. Like you can see
absolutely,
both
yeah.
sides.
Didn't blame him. Yeah, no, I definitely didn't blame him. And me as a father, you mean you do everything to protect your kids. So yeah, I never blamed them for doing that. I would do the same thing too if I had a daughter, and I probably wouldn't have left her go with them. If I heard all the things that were out there about me and my family.
So, what was it when you were a teenager, besides your grandmother, that at 17 you decided? What was the moment that you decided, okay, I need to do something different?
You know, that happened when I was in seventh grade. And there was an assembly at my middle school, and they were talking about what you needed to do to get into college. And kind of that was like kind of an aha moment. I think I was going through some tough times, and just reflecting upon my life and realizing what, my life sucked. I really wanted to do something different. And it was at that time, is like, what, if I could graduate from college, I thought that would be the answer to all my prayers. I wouldn't have to worry about, opening the refrigerator door and no food being in there, and, not having your electricity turned off, constantly because you didn't pay the bill. So there were just all those things that I thought this is what I need to do. And, it's just like anytime you tell yourself you want to do something that's going to be a struggle, all those voices in your head start telling you why you can't do it. And I remember thinking, talking to myself is like, really, you're going to try to graduate from college. Like you're in special ed. You can't read, you can't write, you can't spell. I still can't spell. No one in your family has ever even went to college, let alone graduated from it. Only two people have graduated from high school. Like you'll be lucky to graduate high school. But you know what? My life sucked. And I really was like, you know what? I'm going to do this. And the next day after that assembly, I started to, try my best at school and shoot for that goal, even before I really knew what goals were and how to accomplish them. But I started, having that end in mind and having my future family in mind and the direction that I wanted my life to go. And then I just started, trying to do my best to make that a reality.
This is so great because so many of us have things not really given to us, but have all the things in place and we do nothing with it. And I see, people my age and younger people as well. Like I said, my son is 14. And, you know, kids don't know how good they have it sometimes. And they don't do anything with it. So here you are, you're telling us of a story of struggle and how you kind of had to be your own advocate. Because apart from your mom and your grandmother and now your wife, you really had to figure these things out on your own.
Yeah.
So yeah, and it sounds like you are doing amazing things right now. So what was the one thing in between the life that you had then and how your life is now that you think like what is the one thing that you or the one belief that you think helped you the most?
I think just realizing that, I think we see a lot of people who are successful and think that they are so much smarter or more talented than us. What I realized, my real job was commercial real estate for 20 years. And I'd be in meetings and I'd realize that these people who had made millions of dollars and been very successful, they were no smarter than I was. And I started to realize that, it just comes down to making those small little choices. And there's always a choice. I've become obsessed with personal development and goals since I graduated from college and have used it in all areas of my life. And, doing that, I really just started to realize that there was nothing that I couldn't do. There was nothing that I couldn't accomplish if I had enough time and enough energy and enough focus. And that's what I want everybody to realize is no matter what circumstances you find yourself in now, or maybe even born into, if you have enough time, enough energy, and enough focus, you can accomplish any goal that you put your mind to. And I'm living proof of that.
You definitely are. Thank you. It's almost like you started, some people will say, why me? And it's like, why not me?
Yeah. Well, and that's actually that's in my book, I think, that exact thing. But you talk about the people who are kind of, kids who really are kind of born into good situations and then don't. That was the whole purpose of that title is the Unlucky Sperm Club is we've heard of the Lucky Sperm Club, those people born into privilege and wealth and, all they feel like they have all the advantages. And of course they're going to succeed because of who their parents were. Well, I kind of took the flip side on that. And being born into the situation that I was born into, you know what? Why shouldn't I succeed? Nobody had any expectations that I should succeed, so why shouldn't I? And you know what? Because I was born into those rough situations, they've made me the person that I am. And they've given me, strength to overcome and also the knowledge to know that I can overcome it. And I think when we realize that we can overcome things, then we'll go out there. And that's what my story is too, is to show people, you know what? I've overcome it. And if I can overcome it, you can overcome it.
Yeah, it sounds like you have a lot of grit.
Yeah. I mean, I think, I had to.
Yeah. One thing I do disagree with you about when you were saying about privileged families is that the kids will automatically be successful. In my experience, I've seen kids of privileged families sometimes are really lazy. So
Oh,
even though they have the opportunity to be successful, they don't really have as much work ethic. And this isn't for everybody. There are people out there who, they work just as hard as their parents. So I don't want to, say it's everybody because it's not. And we all know that. But I do think, laziness is huge.
no, I agree with you 100%. And in fact, the whole thing with the Lucky Sperm Club is what you tend to see is these people that are, because of their wealth, they end up in drug rehab or, all these problems in their lives because they didn't have to do that. And and that was kind of the spin on it is people call that the Lucky Sperm Club. I think the conditions that I was born in, the fact that I was willing to use that to my advantage really put me in the Lucky Sperm Club.
No, that's awesome. Thank you. So what is your app? Tell me, what is this all
Yes.
about?
So I mean, I've like I said, over the past 20 years since I've graduated from college, I've used personal development and specifically goal obtainment. I've become obsessed with it and really have anything I could get my hands on, any seminar that I could go to, any book I could get or listen to or magazine. So over the last 20 years, I've just been studying personal development and goals. And through that, I've had, a lot of success financially and business wise. And was fortunate enough to sell some businesses and make good exit. And it's not in me to retire. So, I'm 48 years old and I'm sitting there thinking like, what do I want to do with the rest of my life? Because, it's not going to be, propping my feet up and sitting by the pool. So, we all have that, we've all heard that question, what would you do if money didn't matter? And I thought to myself, you know what, goals and personal development, I've had the opportunity to help some friends and people who really struggled with goals and really be able to help them. And so about 4 years ago, I started to draw out a program of all the things that worked for me with goals and achieving goals and all the things that didn't work, and really come up with a program that gives people all the tools, the knowledge, and the support that they need to finally achieve their goals and live, the life that they were meant to live.
That sounds great.
Yeah, it is. We're proud of it. And, with COVID, we've actually had to pivot. It used to be called 6 Months to Success, and that company still exists. But right when we launched that company last October. And just as we were picking up steam, COVID hit. And that company had people meeting in groups together and using each other as accountability partners and success partners, as we like to call them. But with COVID, we couldn't meet together in groups. So the I Got Smarter app is now where you can meet virtually, and you can invite a success partner to help you achieve your goals. And it's a full-blown program. It's really like nothing else out there. It's a program that all these little pieces that I've really taken over the last 20 years, and I put them all into one program. And we start out every day with a morning ritual that includes gratitude, and it includes learning the I Got Smarter philosophies and strategies and techniques, and you're reviewing your goals. And we only have 3 goals. We don't want to overload ourselves, and we break all of our big goals down into 30-day sprints, as we like to call them. And our mind can really wrap around the next 30 days. So it's definitely, it's helped people achieve their goals, even people who have failed at goals consistently over their lives. This program is the program that actually has people reaching their goals and sticking with it. And what we like to say at 6 Months or I Got Smarter is, you don't have a knowledge problem, you have an execution problem, and this app will help you execute on the things that you need to do.
Yeah, I love that tagline because it's so true.
Yeah, it
It
is.
resonates a lot.
Yeah.
That's phenomenal. What is the biggest gift that you've given to yourself that's changed either the way you think about yourself or the way that you view life?
You know what? I like the theory that we get to give meaning to everything that happens to us in this life. And, when we get to give that meaning to everything that happens to us, why on earth would we give anything a negative meaning? And that's one of the things as I was preparing to start this business and kicking around writing this book is that part of my life, that childhood and the part of my life, it really weighed me down. And in fact, nobody except for my wife knew that part of me when I moved to Las Vegas. Not even my kids, not my in-laws, nobody, because I had run away from that and really had it trapped up and didn't want anybody to know that part of my life. But when I realized, you know what, let me give this a good meaning. I went through those trials for a reason. And maybe I went through those trials so I could help other people overcome their trials and give them inspiration and motivation. And as soon as I gave that part of my life that meaning, it was liberating. And now I gain energy from that, knowing that I was able to overcome that, as opposed to the rest of my life where it just weighed me down and I wanted to block it out and never think of those situations ever.
Yeah, you must be proud of yourself. You've come a long way, despite not having this, despite maybe some challenges, despite all
Yeah,
these things that you went through.
you know what? When I look back at it, I am proud of myself, but you know what? I'm so grateful for all the other people. Especially as I was writing this book, and you see everybody who had a hand in helping you succeed. None of us do it by ourselves. And in fact, I just had lunch today with the guy who hired me into commercial real estate, and just to sit there and reminisce with him and how different my life would be if he didn't hire me.
Mm.
And I've kind of gone through that as I've read this book, is like, wow, if that person didn't do this for me, if he didn't have that conversation with me, if he didn't do this, my life could go a totally opposite direction. So yeah, I'm grateful for me, but I'm so grateful for all the people who helped me, become the person I am.
Yeah, and it's not luck. Like some people say, oh, you just got lucky, or, I hate that because it's not. It comes from hard work. It comes from, communicating with other people. And you were due some good luck anyway, but it's not from luck. But
Yeah.
we talk about that on this podcast a lot because sometimes we get people who have addictions and they come on and I want people or different things that happen to them. And I want people to know that if they're listening, even though they may not resonate with the person who's speaking, they can resonate with the person who helped them. So, you know,
Yeah.
be that person, that friend, that somebody who notices that something's not right, or that hires, that takes a chance on somebody like you, for example, who needed that, or somebody who is in prison and looking for their first opportunity. Like there's so many things that we can do as observers too. You don't
Yeah.
have to just be the person in the story.
Yeah.
So I appreciate
Absolutely.
you saying that because, yeah, there a lot of people are where they are, and through the help of a community, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. No, I mean, a quick story. Like when I was a youth, I got put into the Big Brother, Big Sister program. And, as I was writing this book, I mean, I wrote about Chuck and Mary Diacount, who he was a college student and she was a nurse, but he took the time. I've been through college. It's hard, and every minute and counts, when you're trying to get good grades and everything. But him as a college student took the time to join the Big Brother Big Sister program because he wanted to make a difference in somebody's life. And man, did they make a difference in my life. I mean, they introduced me, they kind of gave me contrast at that time in my life, because this is the way I thought life was. And because they were willing to kind of come into my life and kind of opened up their family to me, it gave me contrast. And I kind of realized, like, wow, you mean, dads don't always get drunk and come home and beat their families, and all this stuff. So I mean, so there, and there's so many of those stories in my life where people were just so selfless and have helped me along the way. I mean, my wife's family, and just the numbers, it just goes on and on. So
But you took it and you ran with it. That's the important part too, because you could
yeah,
have just done nothing, right?
yeah,
So the fact
yeah.
that sometimes people are there to help, but the person isn't receiving the help either. So, you do
Well,
have to take some of that good stuff on yourself because you did it.
well, and I think you hit on an important point there, is that uh, I don't know if it's our culture or our mindsets, but a lot of people don't like to take help, and I don't know why that is. I mean, we are always out there, and we are grateful for people who provide service, but then when that service comes back to us, we're kind of hesitant to take it.
It's because we
And
feel
I
less
think I
than,
think
but
yeah, I think it should be the exact opposite. I mean, even we should allow those people to serve us, especially when we really need it. And not only will it be good for us, but it's great for the person providing the service.
I love that you included some, those stories and some of those people that helped you along the way in your book because sometimes when you do something for somebody out of, from your heart and you really want them to succeed, um, you don't always see the impact that you've had. You walk away, you move on. And sometimes, I say that, for example, I was telling you a little bit earlier about this homeless drive that my son runs. And you're like, well, you just don't know. Maybe it's just a sandwich, or maybe it's just, but for one person, it got them into a home from out from a car. It got them being a leader in the community. It got them so much further down the line that we come to find out because of certain things that we had put in place. And you just, it's nice, those, it's very rare that the person that is giving sees, the impact that they make, because usually you don't
Yeah.
fall, you don't see people through. You do your thing, you move on, help somebody else. So it's great that you recognize them in your book. I think that's really special because maybe that'll encourage more people to do that.
Yeah, I mean, there's no doubt that I wouldn't have lived the life that I'm living without the help of all those people. And just like you said, I named some people, but I remember growing up and not having any Christmas gifts, and gifts being put on our porch from people that we didn't know. And those made a huge difference in my life, and they also just kind of showed that people are good. And that's probably, I needed that more than at that time than I needed those gifts. But so there's so many of those things. And that's what I would you know emphasize to everybody. Put yourself out there and help. If you're in a position to help, even if you're not going to get that thank you, even if you're not going to get those accolades and the recognition, believe it's going to help somebody, and they're going to be appreciative of it.
And it doesn't have to cost money. Like
Nope.
I always say, giving love is absolutely free. You don't have
Yeah.
to have money to be kind to somebody, to be open, just to listen, be somebody that they can come to and talk to. Because the fact that those people did that for you and put that on your step means so much more than the person who judged you in the small town who didn't really want to hear your side of the story. So it's
Absolutely.
incredible. And it sounds like you're teaching all of these beautiful things to your children.
Yeah.
We were talking earlier about how your son is now giving. So I think that's fantastic. Good job. I
Yeah.
love
I
it.
mean, yeah, that's one of the great things I think is growing up in the situation that I did, with the father figures that I had. That was one thing that I always told myself, was I was going to be the best dad that I could be. One of the things I do every single year is, on my vision board, is I want to be the husband of the year and the father of the year. And of course I fall short every year, but, I'm always striving for that, and, wanting to do my best in those two areas of my life. Thanks.
Is there anything you'd like to share with us on, for example, if someone doesn't know how to start changing like negative thoughts to positive and feeling like they can do it even when all this, and everything feels like they're stacked against them?
Give it a good meaning. and I know sometimes that's easier said than done because there's a lot of tough situations out there, but dig deep enough. I mean, give it a good meaning and start where you're at. I mean, every journey starts where you're at. So just start. Don't wait for all the lights to turn green before you're willing to start your journey to the life that you want to live, and the life, that you deserve is, you know, start it. And if you can only take one step and that's all you can see, you know what, take that one step. And what you'll realize is, you'll start to see where you need to take that next step.
Yeah, thank you so much. I was taught that you cannot take one step forward and one step back at the same time. It's
Right.
basically impossible. So,
Yeah.
yeah, one step is movement, no matter how
Yeah.
small.
And that's the thing with the I Got Smarter program is we teach progress, not perfection. And I think there's so many people out there that want to be perfect in everything. And when they're not, then they throw their hands up and quit. You know what? We're just looking for progress. We're looking to get a little bit better day in and day out, and just keep moving along. The tortoise and the hare, right?
Yes, yes. Life is so short, and people say that like it doesn't mean anything. But when you really think about it, I think we all want to have very similar things at the end of our life, and we just want to
Yeah.
be loved. We want to be felt like we've done something in this world. We all want to be respected, and the message that you're sharing cannot be easy for you. But I do respect the fact that you're doing it. Um, it is going to help people. It, I'm sure, has already done that. So keep sharing it. Even on those days where you don't really, we all have those ups and downs. Don't stop, because it's really important.
Well, I appreciate it. And yeah, I appreciate you having me on and allowing me to share the story. And I hope your listeners, it inspires them and motivates them to take action in their own lives.
Yeah, I don't think it's a hope. I think there's no way they can't. Honestly,
I
like
hope
they
so.
should
Thank you.
they should read the book, and as you're reading the book, make a list. Make a list of all the things that Nelson had against him. And then look at where he is now and all the things that he had to overcome one by one. And make a list for yourself. And if he can do it, we can all do it.
I totally believe that if one of us can do it, all of us can do it.
So where can we find your book? Is it on Amazon, I'm assuming, or?
Yeah, it is on Amazon under the Unlucky Sperm Club. It's really anywhere where you buy books, but yeah, Amazon's probably the easiest to get it. So yeah, go there, and I'm proud of it, and super appreciative of all the great reviews that are starting to come back. We just released it November 12th.
People may not realize how important reviews are, but they are very important. It allows authors and podcast hosts like me to be able to reach more people. So
Yeah.
share this with your friends. Share the book with your friends. If you think the message helped you, and if you think that it's powerful. Is there anything we didn't talk about that you want to talk about, Nelson, or we're?
No, I think you touched on everything. I mean, I really enjoyed that conversation, and it's getting me fired up. I can barely sit in this chair. I'm excited. Yeah, it was great.
That's awesome. It was so great to meet you, and I hope that we can maybe work together in the future, because it sounds like we've got some things that are in alignment with one another. So
Yeah,
that sounds great.
absolutely.
Well, thank you so much for coming on, and yeah, I look forward to chatting again sometime.
All right, appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you for tuning in to this week's episode. If you enjoyed what you heard, please subscribe or leave a review. See you next week on the Giving Starts With You podcast.